Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're plunging into a really fascinating paradox. It kind of challenges everything we think we know about wealth. Just imagine this. You've got a brilliant tech executive, right? Famous for literally throwing gold coins into the ocean just for fun. He ends up broke.
Wow, broke.
Totally broke. Now, picture a humble janitor, Ronald Reed, quiet guy, lived simply but somehow amassed an $8 million fortune.
$8 million.
A janitor.
Yep. And he left most of it to charity. It's a pretty stark contrast, isn't it?
It really is.
So our journey today is into The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. And this isn't your typical finance book, you know? No stock tips or market predictions.
No, it's deeper than that. It's about why we do what we do with money.
Exactly. It argues that doing well with money has surprisingly little to do with how smart you are and, well, everything to do with how you behave.
Right. Your actions, your mindset. Our mission here is to pull out the most impactful nuggets from Housel's work. Kind of a shortcut to understanding these surprising, actionable ideas that might just transform how you think about your own financial world, no matter your background.
That's good. Let's get into it.
Okay, so that opening contrast, the genius executive and the humble janitor, it perfectly sets the stage for this first big idea. Financial success is way more about behavior than just raw brain power. You've got this tech executive, like a certified genius, designed key Wi-Fi components, built and sold multiple companies, super successful on paper.
Right, the kind of person you'd assume would be set for life.
You'd think. But he'd carry thick stacks of cash, flaunt it, and throw $1,000 gold coins into the Pacific. Just tons.
Because that's wild.
And apparently smashed a $500 lamp in a drunken rage, then just threw $5,000 at the manager. So maybe predictably, he eventually went broke.
Doesn't sound like great financial behavior, does it?
Not exactly. Then you flip it, and there's Ronald Reed, a Vermont janitor, gas station attendant, first in their family to finish high school.
Okay.
Bought a modest house for $12,000, lived there his whole life, simple life.
So how did he get to $8 million?
He just saved what little he could, put it into solid blue chip stocks, and then he just waited.
Waited.
For decades. He died at 92 with over $8 million. Left most of it to a local hospital and library. No lottery win, no inheritance, just patience and consistency.
That is a truly striking comparison.
Yeah.
Really nails the point, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Financial success, it's not like physics or chemistry. It's not a hard science. It's a soft skill.
A soft skill. I like
Yeah. The tech guy's genius. Couldn't save him from his own kind of destructive behavior. But Reed's ordinary life, coupled with these key behaviors, patience, frugality led to just extraordinary wealth.
It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? Like, how much are your own financial outcomes tied to pure intelligence versus just your everyday decisions and habits?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the core question.
And, you know, those stories also hint at something else that often gets glossed over. The huge role of luck and risk.
Oh, absolutely. This is where it gets really interesting.
Think about Bill Gates. Part of his story involves getting this incredibly rare access to a school computer way back in 8th grade in 1968.
Which was almost unheard of then.
Yeah.
A massive stroke of luck.
Right. One school out of thousands. That access fueled his obsession, his path to Microsoft. But here's the flip side. His friend, Kent Evans, just as smart, just as driven, obsessed over the same computer.
What?
He was set to be a founding partner with Gates, but he died in a mountaineering accident before Microsoft even properly started.
Wow. That's tragic. And it illustrates the point perfectly.
It really does. For every Bill Gates, there's a Kent Evans, two super sharp, motivated people.
And one just lands on the wrong side of, well, life's roulette wheel.
Yeah.
Pure risk, unforeseen.
Yeah.
It really highlights that the world is just, it's too complex. You can't possibly control everything. 100% of your actions don't dictate 100% of your outcomes.
So success isn't purely skill, and failure isn't purely bad decisions.
Not when you properly account for luck and risk, no. It's often a mix. Success is maybe never as good as it seems. Failure never as bad. It's hard to measure luck and risk, sure, but you have to acknowledge they're there.
That really forces you to reevaluate things. How often do you personally attribute your own wins just to skill, or look at someone else's failure and think, they made bad choices, without considering maybe they just got unlucky, that invisible hand, as you said.
It's human nature to do that, but it's not the full picture.
So these insights, they lead us right into this next big idea, this kind of elusive concept of enough.
Yes, enough.
Yeah.
So simple, but so powerful.
There's this great story. Kurt Vonnegut and Joseph Heller are at a party hosted by a billionaire.
Okay.
Vonnegut points out that their host probably made more money in that single day than Heller had earned from his massively famous novel, Catch-22, over its entire history.
Wow. They got to sting a little.
You'd think. But Heller's response was just brilliant. He said, "Yes, but I have something he will never have. Enough."
Oof. What a line. And it's a lesson so many people, especially wealthy ones, seem to miss.
Yeah, like Bernie Madoff.
Exactly. Madoff ran a hugely successful, legitimate brokerage firm for years. He had immense wealth, prestige, everything.
But it wasn't enough.
Apparently not. He risked absolutely everything, his reputation, his freedom, his family, everything, to run this massive Ponzi scheme for more money he absolutely did not need.
Why? It seems insane.
Well, often it's because our expectations just keep rising with the results. You make more, you want more, and then there's social comparison.
Keeping up with the Joneses.
No, the Zuckerbergs or whoever. You're always looking at someone who has more. It's this ladder with no top rung, a battle you just can't win.
It really feels like a trap. So in this world that's constantly showing us what others have, how do you figure out what enough means for you? And maybe more importantly, what are those truly invaluable things? Reputation, family, freedom, peace of mind that you need to protect by knowing when to stop chasing more.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Or maybe the enough-dollar question.
Right. So if you actually want to build wealth, not just chase it endlessly, there's this other concept. It's often overlooked because it feels kind of counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Compounding.
Compounding. The eighth wonder of the world, supposedly.
Yeah, and Housel uses this great analogy, the ice ages.
Okay, how does that relate?
Well, the theory is that tiny, almost imperceptible shifts in the Earth's orbital tilt led to slightly cooler summers. Just enough that some snow didn't melt year-round.
Right, a tiny bit stuck around.
Exactly, and that tiny, unnoticeable difference repeated year after year, century after century. It compounded. It built up into these massive continental ice sheets, miles thick.
Whoa, okay, I see the connection. Huge results from tiny, sustained changes over a very long time.
Precisely. And money works the same way. Look at Warren Buffett.
The classic example.
He's worth, what, over $80 billion now? But here's the kicker. Something like 99% of that wealth, the vast majority, came after his mid-60s.
99%, after 65.
Yeah. His skill is obviously investing, but his real secret weapon, it's time. It's letting compounding work its magic over decades.
So if he'd stopped earlier.
If he'd retired at 60, even with his incredible 22% average annual returns, his net worth would have been around $11.9 million. Not 80-something billion, like 99.9% less.
That's staggering. It puts it in perspective.
It does. Compare him to Jim Simons at Renaissance Technologies.
Yeah.
Simons has achieved like a mind-blowing 66% average annual return since 1988, way higher than Buffett's.
66%. That's unbelievable.
It is. But Simons is worth significantly less than Buffett, maybe 75% less rich. Why? Because he really hit his stride and started serious investing much later in life, around age 50. He had less time for the compounding engine to run.
So it's not just about hitting home runs. It's about hitting singles and doubles consistently for a really, really long time.
Exactly. Good investing isn't necessarily about earning the absolute highest returns, because those often involve taking huge risks you can't stick with. It's about earning pretty good returns that you can stick with, that you can endure for the longest possible period. Longevity is the key.
That's that confounding compounding. Makes you think, are you focused on chasing those spectacular, maybe risky, short-term wins? Or are you truly valuing the maybe less exciting, but ultimately more powerful force of long-term consistent growth?
Yeah.
Just letting it build.
Right. But, okay, how do you actually stay in the game long enough for that compounding to work? It's one thing to get wealthy.
But it's another thing entirely to stay wealthy. Good point.
And that, the book argues, demands a kind of survival mindset.
Survival.
Think about Jesse Livermore, one of the all-time great stock traders. Made an absolute killing, like billions in today's money, shorting the market before the 1929 crash.
A legend. But didn't he?
Yep. Just 4 years later, apparently overflowing with confidence from his big win, he made bigger, much more reckless bets, wiped himself out completely, lost everything, disappeared.
A cautionary tale. Brilliant at getting rich, not so good at staying rich.
Exactly. And he wasn't alone. The book mentions others, like Rick Guerin, who was an early partner with Buffett and Munger, just as smart.
Okay, so what happened to him?
He was apparently in a hurry, used a lot of leverage. Then the market tanked in 73, 74. He got margin calls and was forced to sell his Berkshire Hathaway stock back to Buffett for dirt cheap.
Ouch. Forced out at the worst possible time because he was overextended.
Right. He had the skill to get wealthy, but not the discipline maybe to stay wealthy.
It's a powerful lesson. Avoiding ruin, just surviving, is paramount. It doesn't matter how big your edge is if you get knocked out of the game before you can use it.
Like Buffett, he survived 14 recessions without panicking or getting forced to sell.
Exactly. He avoided crippling debt, didn't ruin his reputation, didn't burn out. He endured. And that longevity allowed compounding to do its incredible work.
Yeah.
A key takeaway here is pretty simple. Sometimes, just not making one desperate, poorly timed sale can do more for your lifetime returns than picking dozens of huge winners.
Wow. That puts a different spin on things.
Yeah. It suggests this kind of barbelled personality.
Yeah.
Be optimistic about the long-term future, definitely, but be paranoid, absolutely paranoid, about the short-term things that could prevent you from reaching that future.
So the question for you, the listener, becomes, are you maybe focusing too much on maximizing those big, potentially risky gains? Or are you building a financial strategy that's, first and foremost, unbreakable, something that ensures you survive the inevitable downturns, even if it means slightly slower growth sometimes?
Survival first, then optimize.
Okay, speaking of what actually works for people, the book makes this really crucial distinction. It says, don't aim to be coldly rational with your money. Aim to be reasonable.
Reasonable over rational. I love that. It sounds subtle, but it's a huge difference in practice.
Let's explain that a bit. What's the difference?
Okay, think about Harry Markowitz, Nobel Prize winner in economics for modern portfolio theory, like the definition of financial rationality.
Right. Pure math and optimization.
But how did he invest his own money? He famously just split it 50-50 between stocks and bonds.
Wait, just 50-50? Not some complex, optimized formula based on his own theories?
Yep. Nope. Why? He said it was to minimize my future regret. It wasn't mathematically optimal, but it was reasonable for him. It let him sleep at night.
Huh. That's amazing. Minimize regret, not maximize theoretical returns.
Exactly. The real world isn't a spreadsheet. We're humans. We have emotions, families, anxieties, a desire for peace of mind.
Yeah.
So a purely rational strategy might, on paper, tell a young person to use, say, 2-to-1 leverage on stocks, maximize those long-term gains, even if it means you might get totally wiped out sometimes.
Mathematically, maybe that works out over infinite timelines, but...
But for a real person,
yeah,
that's absurdly unreasonable. Who could actually live with that kind of stress and risk? You'd bail at the first sign of trouble.
So a reasonable strategy is one you can actually live with.
Yes. One you can stick with through thick and thin. That commitment, that endurance you get from feeling comfortable and reasonable about your plan is often way more powerful over the long haul than a perfect plan you abandon when things get scary. Being able to endure the downturns is the edge.
That makes so much sense. It's about sustainability for your own psyche.
Totally.
So think about your own approach. Are you striving for some impossible standard of cold, hard rationality with your money? Or are you prioritizing what feels reasonable, what feels sustainable for you, for your life, your temperament, your goals?
That's the key distinction.
Okay, here's something else to kind of chew on. The world is way more surprising than we usually give credit for. And history, while it's valuable, isn't necessarily a reliable map for the future.
Ah, the limits of history. This is a big one.
There's this great quote from Stanford professor Scott Sagan. Things that have never happened before happen all the time.
I like that. It sounds paradoxical, but it's true.
Investors often treat past data like it's this, unassailable guide to what's coming next. But investing isn't physics.
Right. As the physicist Richard Feynman apparently quipped about finance, the particles, the electrons, have feelings. People react, they change, they get scared, they get greedy. The system evolves.
Exactly. Relying too heavily on specific historical patterns can be dangerous because the underlying structure of the world changes.
Think about it. The 401k is only about 40-something years old. The Roth IRA is even younger. Venture capital, as we know it, barely existed 25 years ago. The companies in the S&P 500 are vastly different than they were 50 years ago.
The game itself changes.
Constantly. Even Benjamin Graham, the father of value investing, constantly updated his formulas because he acknowledged they became antiquated as the market evolved.
So using data from, say, 1950 to predict 2050 might be misleading.
It could be very misleading if you're looking at specific patterns, because the future will always hold novel surprises. Think about tail events. These are rare, unpredictable, outlier events that have massive consequences.
Like 9/11.
Exactly. Or the 2008 financial crisis, or the COVID pandemic. These things weren't really predictable based on past data, but they completely reshaped the world and the markets. You can trace so much of what's happening now back to a handful of these unforeseen events.
So what's the lesson then, if history isn't a perfect guide?
The lesson, as Daniel Kahneman said, is that the world is surprising. We should learn general lessons from history about human behavior, greed, fear, patience, panic, but not expect specific historical events to repeat exactly. And because surprises will happen, we need to build in that room for error we talked about, flexibility, a margin of safety.
That's a really critical mindset shift. Are you planning your financial future based rigidly on what's always happened in the past? Or are you building in the flexibility, the buffer to handle the inevitable, unpredictable surprises the world is definitely going to throw at you?
That buffer is key.
Okay, switching gears slightly. It's kind of a strange quirk of human psychology, isn't it, that we seem to gravitate towards bad news. Pessimism often sounds smarter.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Pessimism is seductive. It feels more plausible, more intellectual somehow, and it definitely gets more attention.
Yeah, Housel gives this example. In 2008, some Russian professor predicted the U.S. would collapse and break into 6 separate countries by 2010.
I vaguely remember something like that.
And it was published on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. Now contrast that. Imagine going to Japan in 1946, right after WWII, amidst famine and devastation,
Okay.
and telling them, hey, don't worry, your economy is going to grow 15 times over, your life expectancy will double, and someday you'll own prime real estate in the U.S.
They would have thought you were absolutely insane.
You know.
Dismissed you completely.
It sounds absurdly optimistic, totally implausible, and yet that optimistic scenario is basically what happened in Japan. The pessimistic U.S. collapse prediction, not so much.
It really highlights our bias, doesn't it? Why are we wired like that?
Well, the book suggests a few reasons. Loss aversion is a big one, evolutionarily. Threats feel more urgent than opportunities.
Makes sense. Avoiding the tiger was more important than finding more berries.
Exactly. And financial news grabs attention because money affects everyone, and negative news feels more urgent. Plus, setbacks and destruction are often sudden and dramatic.
While progress is slow, incremental, almost invisible day to day.
Yeah, it's much easier to write a compelling story about a market crash that just happened than about, say, the slow, steady decline in heart disease deaths over 50 years, even though that progress is arguably way more significant.
So the narrative favors pessimism. And pessimists often just extrapolate current negative trends indefinitely without accounting for how people and markets adapt.
Like the peak oil predictions that were everywhere a while back.
Perfect example. Didn't account for innovation like fracking. Problems get solved, people adapt, incentives change things. But optimism requires acknowledging that, which sounds less certain, less definitive than predicting doom.
So when you're consuming financial news or commentary, it's worth asking yourself, am I aware of this inherent bias towards pessimism? And how might that constant drumbeat of negativity be shaping my own outlook? Maybe unnecessarily.
Good filter to apply.
Okay, final big idea before we try to tie this all together. We often fall into this subtle trap, judging our own financial decisions, maybe even our lives, by the standards of people who are playing a completely different game than we are.
Defining your game.
Oh,
This is crucial.
what does that mean exactly, playing a different game?
Well, think about stock prices.
Yeah.
What's the rational price for a stock, say, Yahoo back in the dot-com bubble?
Uh-oh. Depends who you ask, right?
Exactly. If you're a long-term fundamentals-based investor, you might look at Yahoo in 1999 and say, this is insane, completely detached from reality.
Right. Overvalued based on earnings or whatever.
But if you're a short-term day trader, just trying to ride the momentum for a few hours or days, maybe capture that upward trend before it breaks.
Then the current price might sound perfectly reasonable for your game.
Precisely. Your goal and your time horizon dictate what's rational for you. Bubbles often form not just from irrational optimism, but from lots of people rationally shifting to shorter and shorter time horizons, trying to capitalize on momentum, which then distorts prices for the long-term players.
So people are playing different games with different rules and time frames, but we're all looking at the same price ticker.
Yes. And it happens with spending, too. So much consumer spending is socially driven. You see your neighbor's new car, your colleague's fancy house, the clothes people wear on Instagram.
You see the consumption.
But you don't see their financial goals, their savings rate, their anxieties, their specific circumstances, the different game they're playing. Maybe that lawyer needs an expensive suit and car for their career image, while the software developer working from home doesn't.
But we get influenced anyway, comparing our insides to their outsides.
Exactly. We get pulled into playing their game or judging ourselves by their standards, even when it makes no sense for our own situation, our own goals, our own time horizon.
That is incredibly powerful. How easily we can get swayed by signals from people whose lives and goals are totally different from ours.
Which is why it is so important to consciously define your own financial game. What are your goals? What's your time horizon? What truly matters to you?
Okay, that's such a vital point. Take a moment, listener, and really think. What does financial success actually mean for you? What game are you playing? Are your choices aligned with that game? Or are you maybe inadvertently getting caught up competing in someone else's race?
It's worth reflecting on.
All right. We have covered a lot of ground today, really dug into the human side of money, going way beyond the numbers. As we start to wrap this up, let's try and consolidate some of this wisdom. What are the most actionable takeaways for someone listening right now?
Yeah, let's distill it. These aren't rigid rules, obviously, because everyone's situation is unique. But they feel like universal truths grounded in the psychology we've been discussing.
Okay, hit me.
First, cultivate humility and forgiveness. Recognize luck and risk in your own life and in others. Focus on what you can control, which is mostly your own behavior. Less judgment, more understanding.
I like that. Less ego, maybe.
Definitely leads to the next one. Less ego, more wealth. Remember, wealth is often what you don't see. It's the car not bought, the upgrade skipped. It's the gap between your ego and your income. Suppress the urge to spend today to have more options and freedom tomorrow.
Okay, humility, less ego. What else?
Sleep well at night. This goes back to reasonable over rational. Aim for a financial strategy that brings you peace of mind, even if it's not perfect on a spreadsheet. Your emotional endurance is key.
Right. The Markovitz 50-50 portfolio. Sustainable for him.
Exactly. Then, embrace compounding. Leverage time. Small, consistent efforts over decades yield incredible results. Shut up and wait, basically.
The power of patience.
And related. Be okay with things going wrong. Most individual investments might not work out. That's normal. Judge your success by your overall portfolio, not by picking only winners. Peter Lynch said, if you're right 6 times out of 10 in investing, you're doing great.
That takes some pressure off. Don't need to be perfect.
Nope. Next, use money for control. Probably the highest dividend money pays isn't more stuff, it's control over your time.
Yeah.
The ability to wake up and say, I can do what I want today, that's priceless freedom.
That resonates. Control over your time.
Yeah.
Also, maybe be nicer and less flashy. Real respect comes from kindness and humility, not from luxury goods. Sounds cliche, but it's true.
Good reminder. Keep it simple.
And related to that, just save. Seriously, save without even needing a specific goal. Savings equals options. Flexibility. The ability to handle surprises or seize unexpected opportunities. It's defense and offense in one.
Save for the sake of saving creates options.
Okay.
And understand the price of success. Market volatility, fear, doubt, uncertainty. Those aren't fines for doing something wrong. They're the fees you pay for decent long-term investment returns. Expect them. Accept them.
See volatility as the cost of admission, not a penalty.
Exactly. Which leads to worship room for error.
Yeah.
Build that margin of safety. It's not being overly conservative. It's ensuring you survive long enough for compounding to work and to weather the unpredictable stuff.
A buffer against surprises.
Right. Also, avoid extremes. Your future self will likely want different things than your current self. Extreme frugality or extreme workaholism now might lead to regret later. Moderation increases endurance. And be willing to abandon past goals if they no longer serve you no sunk costs in life decisions.
Flexibility again. Adapt as you change.
Yep. And like risk, but fear ruinous risk. Take calculated risks, absolutely. That's how you grow. But always prioritize survival. Avoid any risk that could take you out of the game completely.
Stay in the game at all costs.
That's the foundation. And finally, back to what we just discussed, define your game. Know your goals, your time horizon. Don't get swayed by what others are doing if they're playing a different game. And maybe overarching all of this, respect the mess. Finance is full of paradoxes, emotions, and disagreements among smart people. There's rarely one single right answer.
Wow, that's a great summary. Humility, patience, survival, reasonableness, knowing yourself, it really paints a different picture of managing money.
It's much more about psychology and behavior than complex formulas.
Our deep dive today into the psychology of money really hammers home that while the numbers matter, sure, it's the stories we tell ourselves, the behaviors we adopt, the emotions we manage. That's what truly shapes our financial journey.
It absolutely is. It's a powerful lesson in self-awareness, really.
Yeah.
It shows that maybe the most valuable financial tool isn't some fancy algorithm or spreadsheet, but just a deep understanding of human nature, especially your own. And remembering, like we said, there's rarely one single right way. Just what works for you, what lets you sleep at night, what aligns with your definition of a good life.
Well said. Okay, let's leave our listeners with a final thought to mull over, something to take away from all this.
Right.
Consider this. If your financial decisions, starting right now, were guided solely by what would make your 90-year-old self proud and feel free, what would you start doing differently? Or maybe what would you stop doing entirely today?